let's discuss defensive tackles in this draft.
Yeah.
Perhaps the most important position on the football field,
Sure.
depending on where you're coming from. This year, actually, a really nice, interesting year. When you look at the top of the draft, we're going to go over the top 5 defensive tackles. Number 1 has to be Leonard Williams.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, the combination of size and speed and aggression and everything that he does on the field, when you see that and you say, if we can get him to be playing at his peak at all times, he's going to be one of the most terrifying players in the NFL.
Yeah, a little slow to diagnose at times, but when he knows a pass is coming, when he knows a run is coming, he is zeroed in, and he's fantastic.
Absolutely.
Behind him, perhaps the biggest legs. I don't mean longest legs.
No, just
I mean just like they are this desk.
You cut the legs in half and you can say, oh, this is from 1830, this is from 1873.
Great cross section.
Yeah, absolutely.
Danny Shelton, we're talking about the defensive tackle, the nose tackle, projected as a pure nose. From Washington, very, very productive 2014. Great burst off the ball, obliterated centers and interior offensive linemen that attempted. You need to double team him, if not even more.
I love Danny Shelton because he's not just that big defensive tackle who occupies 2 blockers. He makes 2 blockers' lives actively miserable.
Yes, he does.
And I like that he can do that. He's not just taking up space, he's altering it in a very meaningful way.
We'll stay in the Pacific Northwest with Eric Armstead. Of course, he comes into college looking like a great offensive lineman, basketball player, about 6'8", right around 300 pounds. A lot of comparisons to Calais Campbell. Will play a 3-4 end or play inside on a 4-3. And this is not a project, but we're looking at what he is physically and projecting forward. He had great burst off the lines, very good hands. Not the most productive player, but when you have that kind of frame to play around with how large humans are in the NFL, extremely intriguing.
Yeah, he's a question mark just because you have to figure out what he's going to fit at best.
Right.
And that's a very open question right now because he can do some things really well, some things he has these glaring weaknesses at, and I think it's going to be very team specific. He is the player of this list that I feel his success or failure will depend most on where he goes, not so much what he does with himself personally.
Absolutely. Next we have Malcolm Brown, who has perhaps the most polish of any defensive tackle or interior defensive lineman on this list. Very quick to diagnose plays, very focused. You need to get 1, 2, 3 players around him because he will slip into backfields and make life miserable for offensive linemen and quarterbacks, really. Just needs to add a little bit of pass rushing polish, you know, those counter moves once he's blocked initially, but he is as close to a finished product, I think, as we have here.
I think that's right. There still feels like there's room for him to improve, though, which is a nice thing. Malcolm Brown was the kind of guy who felt like every college preseason we talked about, okay, this is the year Malcolm Brown is going to destroy
Wasn't even the
football.
most notable Malcolm Brown on Texas.
Fair enough, fair enough. But I think that had more to do with the fact that Texas just went through a really bad streak of years. It wasn't necessarily indicative of his ability.
And the final name on this list, in terms of size-wise at nose, because Eric Armstead does not project as a nose, Jordan Phillips from Oklahoma. When he cared, when he flashed that ability at 6'6", around 330 pounds, looks to be a nose tackle. We talked about him a little bit earlier, but if he can get efforts every play, if coaches can get effort out of him, he is dangerous.
Yeah, I don't love that in 2013 he had back surgery, which was basically explained as he's a big dude and he has back problems. I don't love that that's how he's sort of entering. But if he can stay on the field and if he can put those injury problems behind him, he is going to be a very, very big problem for whoever has to face him week to week.
Extremely athletic. You could see he's not a huge guy. He's a big guy. He's not fat. So like he could excel at other sports. It's really impressive with what he's able to do with his body at that size.
Absolutely.
All right, those are our top 5 interior defensive linemen or defensive tackles in the 2015 draft. Let us know who we missed or where you agree. Really, just say nice things about what we just said, and we will see you soon.